Football is
America.
America.
Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass.
This is a moment in time. I don't give a damn.
Oh
my God.
No.
You love this.
It's 30 to 27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30 to 20.
Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, free agency has officially begun. What a freaking day it has been around the NFL. I mean, it feels like we're barely past the Super Bowl, but the new league year is officially begun. There is plenty of things that have been going on. The new league year begins officially on March 12th, but officially, unofficially, it has already begun because we already know big names going to other teams, quarterbacks. I mean, I made a short earlier today talking about it where it's like if you had just, let's say you got a DUI on Friday night and you just got released out of jail, it's like, bro, I don't know why I use that as an example. It could be anything that dropped you off the face of the earth. Maybe you went on a hike and you didn't have your phone. Whatever the case is, DK Metcalf is a Steeler, right? That is wild. I don't know if DK Metcalf is going to thrive. You know, Pittsburgh has a way of having diva wide receivers, and DK Metcalf is about to go in the most uncertain quarterback situation, potentially, of his entire career. We'll see what happens with that. But if you're going to pay that much money for a guy like DK Metcalf to come in, you better have a quarterback. You better make sure that you have also invested a ridiculous amount of money in the quarterback position, because otherwise, what is the point, right? What is the point of having fancy, elaborate rims on a car that doesn't have an engine to run? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So I expect the Steelers to be all in on Aaron Rodgers because that really is the last option because they don't really have a draft pick to go and get a Shedeur Sanders. But maybe I'm missing something. Maybe they're going to try to trade up in the draft. I don't think so because those teams that are drafting 1, 2, 3, most of those quarterbacks up there, really, we're talking about two teams right now. We're talking about the Tennessee Titans, who are most likely going to pick a quarterback. And we are talking about, I mean, look, even the Browns. I know a lot of mock drafts don't have the Browns taking a quarterback. I have the Browns taking a quarterback. All right. So that's two teams right there. And then we know the Giants need a quarterback. So I don't see those three teams moving back. So I do think the Steelers need to address the quarterback situation with a quarterback that is currently available. Now you might say, well, what about Sam Darnold? Well, Sam Darnold just signed a contract worth $100 million with the Seahawks. And you might be thinking, well, what do the Seahawks need a quarterback for? They have Geno Smith. Not anymore. Geno Smith is a Las Vegas Raider reunited with Pete Carroll. Davante Adams, right? Somebody that was with the Jets, somebody that went to the Jets to be with Aaron Rodgers. What's going to happen with him? Well, he is a Los Angeles Ram. And that actually, this one makes a ton of sense because the Rams have Puka Nacua. He's clearly the number one wide receiver on the team. They don't have money to pay for two wide receiver ones. Cooper Kupp is better than Davante Adams right now as far as the amount of money that he's going to demand. I'm only talking about money. Where Davante Adams, there's something that happens to a player when he bounces between two teams, going on his third team now in the last couple of years. Your value drops immensely, even if you bounced from different teams, because let's say it's completely out of your control. Maybe it's a money thing. It still hurts the value of the player because there is a subconscious part of us that are like, if he was that great, wouldn't teams want to keep him? Wouldn't the Raiders not wanted to have traded him? Wouldn't the Jets done whatever it took to keep him? Right? This actually does happen. Okay. Cooper Kupp has been with the same team the entire time. So he has a little more value when it comes to just straight up comparing Davante Adams to Cooper Kupp. So what do the Rams really need? Well, they don't need another number one. What they wanted was a number two that has wide receiver one upside. And that is exactly what Davante Adams is. And this also is more of an indicator that the Rams are moving on from Cooper Kupp. And we can talk about potential landing spots, but that is a massive deal. I mean, the freaking Broncos, dude. I'm telling you, I haven't been this happy in free agency since Russell Wilson got signed from the Seahawks. Okay, forget about that. All I'm saying is that Dre Greenlaw is an absolute stud at linebacker, an absolute stud. I can't be more happy about everything they did. We're going to get into the safety. We're going to talk about everything. I've gotten really good at, it's so funny. I was watching what do you call it? It's the top 100 players. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but every single year they bring in a bunch of players and they vote on who is the best in the NFL, ranking 100 to number one, who was Mahomes. It used to be Tom Brady. Well, what is it? Talana Hufanga. Everybody in the top 100, he was at like 73. He's only been in the league 4 years, but everybody was like, I'm going to butcher his name. And then I actually looked up how it was pronounced. Talano. It was Talanoa. Talanoa. Hufanga. I mean, it's really not that hard of a name. It's a Samoan name. So we haven't seen letters, next to other letters in this combination before, but it actually sounds the way it's spelled. So anyway, he is, in my opinion, a top 3 safety in the league. All right, we're going to get into all that too. But Denver, what I love about this specifically is that Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga are going to stick together, right? There is a chemistry that happens between linebackers and safeties. And when you take one away, I mean, it would be really easy for Dre Greenlaw to be like, hey, man, you're a Bronco. Actually, Hufanga was the first to be announced. Hufanga, you're a Bronco now. And it's like, cool. I don't know anybody. I got to travel there alone. I mean, now the fact that Dre Greenlaw's like probably on the same flight, it makes a world of a difference as far as the attitude the players are going to have when they show up. We got Dragonheart 325 in the chat saying go Broncos. Absolutely, dude. And I said this earlier, and I'm going to be interviewing somebody on Wednesday night. He's a diehard Ravens fan, and we're going to be talking about our teams. But he asked me, what do the Broncos need to do? What do you want to see him do? And I specifically said Dre Greenlaw, right? I was like, we need a serious linebacker. We've had guys that can get you over 100 tackles. They fly around the ball, but they're very lacking in pass coverage. Justin Strnad, not that instinctual. We haven't had a sideline to sideline linebacker with the proper speed. We were getting burned on flat routes, basically. Then we drafted Drew Sanders, who had a surprisingly good 40-yard dash time, but he's been dealing with injuries. We ended up letting some players go, and actually Cody Barton is going to be following in the footsteps of our old linebacker, Josie Jewell, to the Tennessee Titans. So we needed a real linebacker. I mean, it's been like, how the Patriots always got away with, like, I don't want to use Wes Walker because he's actually like one of the greats, but just guys that were just guys. That's how it kind of felt with the Broncos at linebacker. Like, these guys are doing a good job. Like, it's not like you're watching the game, besides a couple that Justin Strnad was getting cooked the whole game. But it's not like you watch the game and you're like, oh my God, our linebackers suck. It's not that. It's just, in order for this defense to take it to one more level, they needed to get star talent at the linebacker and safety position. Look, Brandon Jones was amazing, but bringing in Hufanga to pair with Jones, because Denver runs a nickel defense, two cornerbacks, 2 defensive backs, and 3 safeties. Now you're going to have Brandon Jones and Hufanga. You're going to be able to put Drew Sanders on the field, who is, I mean, he was our first draft pick 2 years ago, and you're going to be able to pair him with Dre Greenlaw, Patrick Surtain on one side. You got Riley Moss, who had a breakout year on the other. This defense is looking dangerous. They're able to re-sign DJ Jones to a 3-year contract, I mean, he was amazing in the run stopping game. I mean, I haven't even talked about Nick Bonito, who was actually in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Nick Bonito. I mean, we signed Jonathan Cooper in the middle of last season to an extension. Like, this defense, dude, is gonna be nasty. Vance Joseph's defense has been elevated. Hufanga and Greenlaw will be tasked with elevating his defense from good to great, and arguably from better than good to better than great, right? This is going to be an amazing defense, and that is great news for Bronco fans, because when you look at Bo Nix and the success he had in the sophomore slump that tends to loom around the corner of every impressive rookie season, one of the major reasons that happens is because the defense starts giving up a ton of points, right? The fact that Denver's defensively going to be a more improved version of an already good team means Denver's going to be holding their opponents 16 to 21 points per game. I just don't see a way that Denver is not going to be able, with Bo Nix and how much he matured and how much he improved week to week. I don't see that offense not being able to go out and score 16 to 21 points per game. And you look at the offensive side of the ball, and these moves on defense tells me that Denver is targeting somebody in that first round. Now, it could be one of the star tight ends. It could be a running back that is not supposed to be on the board that falls out of Boise State. It could be a wide receiver like Luther Burden. But what these moves tell me as a fan is that Denver is going to be using their first round draft pick on a player that is going to be an offensive star player, right? A weapon, an offensive weapon. That's where the first round draft pick is going. And that's going to even help Bo Nix more, right? We already saw Devon Vele start to break out and do good things. Now, he's more of a wide receiver 3, but still, we saw Troy Franklin start to get better as the season went on, who was Bo Nix's number 1 target in Oregon. Cortland Sutton has been reliable, the most reliable receiver for a while. There is a lot to like. Now, Javonte Williams, I recommended Denver release him today. They did kind of release him. Well, he was a free agent, and the Cowboys signed him, who runs in a very similar way as Ezekiel Elliott, right? Kind of a heavy, not burst away speed, but powerful running back that just didn't really have the ability to break tackles the way he did before his horrific knee injury. And it's really sad to see somebody so young go through that. But he had his first year back, and we thought we'd give him one more year, and we did, and it wasn't much better. So I think Denver made the right move letting him go. I'm excited, too, to see what Audric Estime can do, the rookie last year out of Notre Dame. He really, when he was getting the ball fed to him, he was getting better and better. He just needed more touches, in my opinion. Now, I don't think he's our 3-down back, but I do like him as our RB2, and I think Denver is going to be looking to make a move for a big-time running back. And maybe not. You got to remember, Alvin Kamara, 3rd-round draft pick. A lot of these guys that Sean drafted that became stars, I mean, just look at Bo Nix, right? He was the worst quarterback in the draft. So we really have to separate the way we think about these players and try to understand the way Sean thinks about these players, because we are on the NFL train, the NFL bus, which Sean calls it, where the media controls the narrative. They tell you who's good, they tell you who's bad. But in reality, there's an internal process in going through each one of these players and doing an evaluation. And Sean, in the way he does it, is one of the best in the league. And that's why all these players that he drafted last year were actually on the field for most of the year. We're getting the most out of our draft picks. We are seeing the players that we draft actually develop, which is another key part. There's a lot of organizations that know how to draft well, but their player development coaches aren't there. They don't have the resources or the talent. Denver has all of the right staff pieces where you can see not only are they developing their players, but you're seeing players like Marvin Mims, who I didn't even mention before. From week 10 to week 18, it was like he hit a whole nother level in his game as a wide receiver. I mean, just look at the Bengals game, week 17. So we're seeing our players develop and get better as the season goes on. And that's a huge credit to all of these coaches. Denver is in position. I said this when the season ended. I said it to my friend who I'll be interviewing on Wednesday. Denver is 4-star players away from making a deep playoff push. If my math is mathing, we are about 2-star players away from making a deep playoff push. And those 2 players, yes, they can come in the draft. Just look at rookies like Garrett Wilson, right? Look at the guys that win Rookie of the Year. All right, are those guys a star player? Yes, they are. So they can come from the draft. Okay, I mean, shit. Look at CJ Stroud. I mean, he was like amazing his rookie year. So just because, and I'm not saying Denver's done with free agents. I'm just saying if they could bring in Cooper Kupp or something like that, wow, that would be monster. Nick saying the Broncos defense will give up 10 points per game next season. You're not off. Speaking of the NFL bus, I don't think a QB goes until pick 10 at least. Ooh, I don't think so, unless all of the teams that need quarterbacks trade back. But hey, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. That's a bold take. All right. So let's go over the free agency tracker. Okay. First off, Aaron Rodgers. This is hilarious how the stars are aligning because Brett Favre, he's with Green Bay. He takes a season off, doesn't know if he's going to retire, doesn't know if he wants to come back. The Packers force him to make a decision. So he says, fine, if you're forcing me to decide now, then I guess I retire. Okay? So after they force him to make that decision, a couple months go by and Brett's like, you know what? I want to run it back. Packers say, sorry, we've moved on. And he goes to the New York Jets, spends a couple seasons with the New York Jets just to ask to be released to go to the Vikings because the Packers wouldn't send him to the Vikings. But if he could go to another team and they could get rid of him, then all of a sudden it's possible. Now, Aaron Rodgers had the same thing last couple of seasons, didn't know if he wanted to come back, said he would contemplate it. Hey, went into the dark room, came out, the Packers decided to move on, and he goes, guess where? The New York Jets. Now, he didn't have the same success that Brett Favre had with the Jets, but the similarities between these two stories are at this point humorous. Now, it is very possible, now that Sam Darnold has been traded to the Seattle Seahawks, that Aaron Rodgers is going to, no shit, be a Minnesota Viking, which is something that we continue to joke about until now. Because this is actually, I mean, yes, is he a dark horse candidate? Sure. But it makes a lot of sense. Kevin O'Connell, maybe one of the only coaches that could still get the best out of Aaron Rodgers. Maybe the Vikings are in a position right now to win a Super Bowl. I mean, look how good Sam Darnold looked last year with Kevin O'Connell. We haven't seen Sam Darnold look anything like that. Okay. Also, what are Aaron Rodgers' other options? Do you think those teams are going to win a Super Bowl? I don't. Do you think Rodgers wants to play for a team like the Tennessee Titans or a team that you know isn't going to make it to that level, right? Obviously, he's in this because he wants to win a Super Bowl. That's what was so attractive about the Jets. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is either going to be a Steeler or a Viking, in my opinion. All right. And when you add in how much money the Steelers just paid DK Metcalf, the Steelers need to get on the phone with Aaron Rodgers' agent and not get off the phone until they have a deal. I mean, there is absolutely no way that you can pay a wide receiver before you have a quarterback. I mean, that is just ridiculous. The only way that they would do that is if the Steelers already had a plan in place And this was the domino that fell first, but it's not necessarily like the Steelers don't have the answer to their quarterback situation. This is the way I think. All right. I think the Steelers already have a deal in place. I don't know if it's with Aaron Rodgers, but now that all the other quarterbacks have gone to other teams, it feels like if it's not Aaron Rodgers, they thought it was going to be Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Because there's going to be probably a 2-year deal worth about $90 million, $40 million guaranteed. And Rodgers would be a Steeler, and DK Metcalf going there maybe is to, offer some sort of enticement to make the Steelers' job more attractive. We know they got a great defense. We know that Mike Tomlin won 10 games last year in his first 13 games. The Steelers had an amazing record. So for Aaron Rodgers, he might think, hey, the Steelers and the Vikings, those are two teams that I believe I can win a Super Bowl with, which doesn't matter what we think. It matters what he thinks. And if you're a competitive person like Aaron Rodgers, do you think you can be that piece to take the Steelers and the Vikings over the top? Maybe you do, right? So I think those are the only two teams, and I expect the Steelers or the Vikings to announce something shortly. We got Crafty in the chat. Rodgers needs to go to Min just to complete the trifecta. That's what I think. But I think Minnesota's rolling with JJ. And that's a great point. And I didn't even bring that up. But what I think is going to happen is that bringing in somebody like Aaron Rodgers is to be a mentor to JJ McCarthy, right? Because JJ, although I'm sure he absorbed a ton of the playbook and he was a sponge, it's like until you get those reps, it's just mental, right? You know who else absorbed the playbook, didn't get any reps? Anthony Richardson. All right. How did that work out for him? I'm not saying JJ McCarthy isn't ready to go. I truly don't know. But what I do think is that he would benefit from not just having a season underneath Rodgers, but a season of reps. He needs to get these reps in. He needs to actually go out there. Now, maybe he's way more advanced and ready than we know. I know he looked good in the preseason. And, people say, well, the preseason's the preseason. But still, it doesn't matter. If Mahomes plays in the preseason and he looks good, it's because he's supposed to look better than those people. He's Patrick Mahomes. But then when a rookie quarterback goes out there and looks really good in a lesser competition environment, we say, no, it's just preseason. That doesn't make any sense, right? All they can do is look better than them, right? If they didn't look good in the preseason, that would be scary, right? That would send a signal that he's playing on a level with his peers, right? And if you're ready to play in the NFL, you don't want preseason players to be your peers. So I'm one of the people that think it does matter looking good in the preseason. I think that counts for something. And I thought JJ McCarthy did look good in the preseason before he got hurt. Okay. So let's see. We talked about the DK Metcalf, right, going to the Steelers. That's going to be followed up by some kind of quarterback. We talked about Sam Darnold going to the Seahawks briefly. Sam Darnold going to the Seahawks, I think, is a great move by the Seahawks and their organization. Okay. And Nick said, cornerback watching DK and Pickens approach them. The ball was overthrown, but they're coming to throw hands. That's true. I mean, they got a lot of personality in that wide receiver room. But look, the Seahawks made the right move. The Raiders made a typical Raider move. All right. Geno Smith, yes, he had it was a great story, but he's also like 36, 37 years old. I feel like his best days are behind him. I mean, this is your typical bridge quarterback situation where Sam Darnold might have, and me and Rick talked about this, he might have just proved that he can be a franchise quarterback for the next 15 years, right? This is a guy that was competing for the number 1 seed in the NFC week 18. Okay. Yeah. He lost to the Lions and then, he lost again in the playoffs, but like what he did through the regular season was immediately, yeah, if you can do that in the NFL, then you will always have a place to be a starting quarterback. It's just about where and when. And for the Vikings, the fact that they just drafted J.J. McCarthy, they had a good problem on their hands, right? And they had too many quarterbacks. But the Seahawks, they're the real geniuses in this move because they say, we're going to let Geno Smith go. We're going to get rid of an aging, older quarterback with his ceiling behind him, and we're going to go for a younger quarterback whose ceiling's ahead of him and whose ceiling we don't really know, but we like his floor. We love his floor. And then for Geno Smith, it's a win-win because he gets to reunite with Pete Carroll in Las Vegas. It's a win for Bronco fans because it's Geno Smith. It's not like Aaron Rodgers you could say arguably Geno Smith is better than Aaron Rodgers right now, but still, I don't know. I'm just not scared of Geno Smith or the Raiders. It is what it is, but I think the Seahawks, as far as making the right decision for their fan base and the franchise for the foreseeable future, they've finally given themselves hope, real hope. Now, I'm going to interview a Seahawk fan on this channel in the next month. We're going to see how they feel about Sam Darnold, but I would be feeling really good about Sam Darnold right now. I would absolutely be feeling good. And the running back that I really wanted out of San Francisco, which would be funny because it would be like the trifecta for me, is what is his name? Is the running back. I'm blanking on his name right now. The running back out of the 49ers who went in when CMC got hurt. It starts with a J. San Francisco 49ers running back. It was Jordan Mason. I wanted Jordan Mason so bad. Really bad. I was like, man, if Denver could get Jordan Mason. Because, dude, he looked amazing this season. All right. So far, no news on Jordan Mason. All right. We got some comments here. So we got Mac Jones is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Backup quarterback. Urinating Tree has an entire stream devoted to just wishing Rodgers won't come to the team. Well, I hopefully the owners are watching that stream. The Raiders signed a millennial QB when the rest of the division has Gen Z QBs. Is Mahomes a Gen Z? Technically, I don't know when the cutoff is for millennial, but yes, this is a very young quarterback. You got Bo 6, Mahomes, and Justin Herbert, and then Geno Smith. Obviously, Geno's like the odd man out there. Vikings let Mullins walk too. Yeah, backup quarterback. The Raiders have a QB who hit the point where he can say, back in my day, to rookies coming in and be completely serious. Back in my day, the Jets were a revolving door for QBs. Oh, wait. That's a good one. Raiders taking Ashton Genty. Think the Broncos are. I think the Broncos are. If he falls. But I don't know. That's a good question. Would the Raiders do it? I don't know. I thought the Cowboys were going to do it, but their signing of Javonte Williams kind of changes my mind a little bit. But it's going to be interesting. The Raiders signed Lonnie Johnson, the safety from Carolina. The Jets are signing safety Andre Sisco. They've agreed to a 1-year deal worth $10 million. Vikings give Byron Murphy a lucrative deal. And we talked about Minnesota has to keep the cornerback. And they do. 6 $66 million on a 3-year deal. The Lions re-signed Dan Skipper, a veteran offensive lineman. He's played for 7 teams in his career, but he is going to be a Lion once again. And then Najee Harris, the Chargers. This was a kind of a low-key move that is definitely on my radar. Harris goes from Pittsburgh to Los Angeles on a 1-year deal worth $9.25 million, and he's going to be replacing J.K. Dobbins. I think it's an upgrade. Najee Harris, a first-round draft pick. Obviously, we know that the Chargers love to run the football, and the first thing Jim wanted to do when he became the head coach was beef up the offensive line and run power running schemes. And Najee Harris is going to do just fine. He might even have his best season with the Chargers. Hate to say it, but it's true. The Saints re-sign Chase Young. So they're going to be bringing Chase Young back on a 3-year, $51 million deal. Poor guy, man. Feel so bad for him. He's like, man, when I was with the Commanders, they sucked. Now they're running in the playoffs, and I'm on one of the worst teams in the league. The hell? The 49ers. This is crazy. Kyle Juszczyk is being cut after 9 seasons. I mean, Kyle Juszczyk was, you talk about a family, right? Juszczyk and his wife and Kittle's wife, and like how close they were. If you watch the documentary, what was it? It was like where they went through George Kittle's life, and then they went through Mahomes, and you get this like inside look on Netflix. But Kyle Juszczyk was monumental. Like what he did for the 49ers, blocking, receiving, running. He was such a big part of the 49ers. And he's 33 years old, but he's just one of those guys where it's like, we've always seen him to be a 49er. He's been with them almost a decade, and he still wants to play football moving forward. So we'll see where he ends up. But yeah, that is crazy. Dre Greenlaw's deal is a 3-year, $35 million deal. We mentioned Javonte Williams going to the Cowboys, a 1-year deal worth $3 million. So kind of a prove-it deal for Javonte. The Patriots are signing Mac Hollins, the former Raider, former Bill, joining New England on a 2-year deal. It could reach $10.4 million, but it's worth $8.4, $10.4 with incentives. The Giants re-signed Darius Slayton on a 3-year, $36 million contract. Zach Wilson, $6 million deal, which if we know one thing about the Dolphins, it's that the backup quarterback, seemingly essential. They're going to be bringing in Zach Wilson on a 1-year, $6 million deal that could reach $10 million if Tua Tagovailoa misses some time and he comes in. The Rams are releasing Cooper Kupp, period. As of 6:24 p.m. today, the Rams apparently could not find a trade partner, so they're releasing the veteran wide receiver per Adam Schefter. That is, I would love to see Denver bring in a Cooper Kupp. Eagles and Browns swap backup quarterback, so Kenny Pickett to the Browns for DTR and a 2025 fifth-round pick. Okay. All right. The Broncos were not able to keep Cody Barton, and he is signing with the Titans, reuniting with Josie Jewell, who also became a Titan last year. The Panthers added more defensive line depth in Bobby Brown, the former Rams defensive tackle. Let's see any big ones here. Laramie Tunsil. Whoa. Laramie Tunsil. Texans traded Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders. This is crazy. Laramie Tunsil is not just a huge part of the Texans. He is like in the ownership group. I think he's like the general manager. Hold on. Let me get this right. Laramie Tunsil's ownership stake Texans. Wow. And this is amazing for the Commanders. That is crazy. So I don't have this information in front of me, but this is amazing news for the Commanders, right? Jaden Daniels, an amazing season, a team that's seemingly going to try to get back to an NFC Championship, compete for a Super Bowl, beef up the offensive the most important position, the offensive tackle, right? You got the quarterback right. Now you need the insurance policy. Laramie Tunsil, that's an amazing pickup for the Commanders. And it was, no doubt, it was about money. Aaron Banks signing with the Packers. The former 49ers guard signs a 4-year, $77 million deal. The Titans re-signing Sebastian Joseph Day on a 1-year deal worth $7.5 million. So Tennessee bringing back defensive end. And the Bears, I mentioned this, a strong start to free agency. They got 2 guards. They got a tackle. And they added Grady Jarrett, right? So the Patriots, they couldn't get something going. So the Patriots sent Grady Jarrett to the Falcons, and then the Falcons released him once free agency began in the morning. Only hours later, the Bears are signing him to a 3-year, $43.5 million deal, including $28.5 million guaranteed. Jarrett played in all 17 games of the Falcons last year. He finished with 53 tackles, only 2.5 sacks, but definitely a player with a ton of potential. A big name free agent. Josh Sweat heading to Carolina. Let's see some of these. Okay. KC, Justin Fields is going to the Jets. What? Yeah. Pretty wild. Justin Fields will be going through Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl simulator. And then KC, Chiefs release their best O-lineman guard, Tooney. That was a shocker. Yeah, nobody saw that coming. Come on, Russell Wilson to the Bears, please. Okay, where were we? Josh Sweat. Arizona was in the running for Milton Williams, but had to pivot when he signed with the Patriots. So the Cardinals are signing Eagles defensive lineman Josh Sweat. So even though the Eagles were able to retain a good amount of their Super Bowl roster, there are still a couple players that they had to part ways with. Guys that are actually played a pretty big role for the Eagles, and we'll get to that. But Josh Sweat, one of these guys who is going to be heading to the Cardinals. Then we got Josh Palmer, wide receiver. The Bills have given Josh Allen another weapon. Josh Palmer, 3-year, $36 million deal. And he had a pretty okay season last year. Played in 15 games, 39 of 65 targets he brought in, 584 yards and a touchdown. The Broncos finalized deal with Talano Hafunga, one of the best safeties in the game. It was a 3-year, $45 million deal. And he did have some injury concerns, but I love this because none of the money is guaranteed. So there's a way for the Broncos to get out of the contract after 1 year. I love this contract. I love the contract. I love the player. A+ signing for the Broncos. The Jets adding Justin Fields to a 2-year, $40 million deal. It includes $30 million guaranteed. And this type of a deal tells you that the Jets are not bringing in Justin Fields to compete. It sounds like the Jets believe Justin Fields could actually be the guy. And I mean, You think back, how did Justin Fields look like with the Steelers? He looked pretty good. He looked okay, right? They were winning football games, and that's really all that matters. But for the Jets, I think logically they see themselves in a predicament. A, there's not a ton of quarterbacks that are available. B, the draft doesn't have any quarterbacks falling to them. So they go, okay, well, Justin Fields will be either a bridge quarterback or a pleasant surprise, right? And he's exciting enough where the fan base will have some excitement and nobody will know that we're tanking. Don't worry, we know. We know exactly what they're doing. But it's up to Justin Fields to prove them all wrong. Cornerback Darius Slay heads to the Steelers. Former Eagles cornerback Darius Slay. I mentioned we would get to some of the other pieces the Eagles lost, Darius Slay being one of them, and the Steelers having themselves a pretty big free agency with Darius Slay and DK Metcalf. We mentioned Sam Darnold going to the Seahawks, a 3-year, $100 million contract, $55 million guaranteed. It's crazy to think that had Sam Darnold just won even one playoff game, that this contract would have been doubled. I'm talking about the money if it was the same years or quadrupled if the years doubled. I mean, it would have been massive. So I think the Seahawks kind of like that he lost that game because you're able to get him on somewhat of a bargain, right? I mean, a 3-year deal for $100 million. If he would have won one of those playoff games, you're looking at $40 million a year, right? You potentially saved like $20 million because of a football game that didn't go the Vikings' way. The Jets signed, the Jaguars, signed Nick Mullins, the former 49er, former Viking quarterback on a 2-year, $6.5 million deal. Milton Williams signed with the Patriots, what initially looked like a done deal to the Panthers. Milton Williams is headed to New England. And that's another one of those players that we were mentioning. He was in talks with a lot of different teams. He was talking to Carolina, the Cardinals, the Vikings. Apparently, it was the Patriots offering the most money. A 4-year deal worth $104 million. It's a lot of bread. And then DJ Reed signed with the Lions. Now, remember, the Lions, they drafted not Kool-Aid McKinstry, the other defensive back out of Alabama. Crap, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he did not have a good rookie season. He was always holding, a lot of bad penalties, always like, what? I mean, it just was not, it was not what he was projected to be. He was projected to come in and be like all these other Sauce Gardner, Patrick Surtain, these guys that just come in and they're just great right away. Jaycee Horn, who, by the way, is the highest paid defensive back in NFL history as of today. And he didn't come in and do that. He came in and struggled. And I think the Lions were like, let's get some reinforcements, bring in somebody like DJ Reed on a 3-year deal. And hopefully he will be either the number 2 cornerback should Terrion Arnold, that's who I'm thinking of, should Terrion Arnold get better, or he'll be the number 1. Terrion Arnold will be the number 2. The Patriots are adding Morgan Moses on a 3-year deal. So that takes a key player away from the Jets. Justin Fields is like, really? I got to deal with this shit again. How come everywhere I go has a terrible offensive line? And by the way, the Jets, they didn't have a great offensive line. It's not like they had offensive linemen to spare. Okay. So that's just more of the same for Justin Fields. Wow. The Rams re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo to a deal. I mean, it has just been a massive day in the NFL, and I want to make sure I'm not missing anything here. And Nick said, "Pray for Justin Fields. Nothing wrong with him. He's just on the Jets." Oh yeah, I don't know. It's so funny. I didn't even see that comment, and I was just talking about the offensive line situation that they have going on. Okay, so we got best available free agents right now. Okay, number 11, because 1 through 10 have signed. Number 11, Amari Cooper. Number 15, Javon Holland, safety from Miami. Number 17, Will Fries, offensive guard. Number 21, Asante Samuel Jr., who was knocked for his poor tackling and inability to play press coverage, but he's also a playmaker, and he does have a nose for the ball. I think he had 3 interceptions in that Jaguar playoff game in the first half. Of course, Justin Reed, veteran safeties don't often get paid in free agency, but he's only 28 years old. All right. I mean, let's not act like he's 35 or 32 is what I meant. Cam Johnson, offensive tackle, twice given the franchise tag by the Jaguars. Robinson will probably be viewed as a league average starting left tackle, but that's an upgrade for a lot of teams like the Jets. Number 27, Stephon Diggs. It is amazing how Stephon Diggs was like the best receiver in the league, and he's like he's like actually 1 year removed from being a Bill, and now he's 27th. Nobody wants him. He hasn't been picked up with a team. It's just crazy how fast in the NFL you can go from literally being considered the best in the world at what you do to nobody wanting you in 1 year. I mean, that is like Stephon Diggs, the latest example of that, but that is just always surprising. Evan Ingram had a meeting with the Denver Broncos today. I am hoping the Broncos can get a deal done with Evan Ingram. Even if it's a 2-year deal worth $10 million, I think that would be fair. But Evan Ingram played really good last year. He was productive when he was available. That's the thing. He only played in 9 games. He's less than 2 seasons removed from his 114 catch Pro Bowl campaign, but that's an upgrade from anything we've had for the past 5 years. So I'm not really too worried about it because I'm willing to take some chances. All right. I want a real tight end. I want a playmaking tight end. And like Denver brought him in because obviously they're interested. But what I think they might do is draft a tight end. Even so, I think they would like to have an Evan Ingram. I mean, imagine if Denver was able to draft, one of these Penn State tight ends and then have Evan Ingram and Marvin Mims and Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix. I mean, the Broncos are putting together quietly a very, very loaded roster with the addition of Fungala, or I'm going to figure out how to say his name. I can say it when I see it. I just got to learn how to remember it. That's really the thing. And Trey Greenlaw. I mean, this defense, dude, this team, I am just getting so excited. DeMarcus Lawrence is available. Azeez Ojulari from the Giants, Jonathan Allen. So a lot of the big names, they're gone now. I mean, Calais Campbell's out there at 39 years old. And he's consistently one of the best players on every team he joins. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess until he proves otherwise, we just forget that he's 39 years old. Yeah, kudos to him for being good this long. The NFL did put out a winner and losers, I think it was, Winners and losers of free agency so far. Okay. Now, this is based on players and not teams. Denver is out of the cap hit now, right, Kyle? Yeah. Denver is finally in a normal situation for the first time in a while. And that's what's crazy is, we've had to do everything with both our hands tied behind our back the last couple of years. And now it's like the floodgates have opened, and it's amazing. We're going to see what Sean can actually do, because when he got hired, he inherited this situation. So Sean's final, and people had the audacity to be like, Sean needs to get fired. I swear there are Bronco fans that said that. It's like, dude, this guy just came into one of the worst situations. You should just be thanking your lucky stars, Jesus Christ himself, that Sean Payton even cared about this job. I mean, seriously, I just, some fans, I can't. I don't like not liking my own fans, but some of them, man, it's like, dude, the fact that we have even made it this far with no money and a rookie quarterback, and now it's like we get to see what Sean can really do as far as reshaping this team and getting them in a position to take it to what that next level is, right? I don't think they played their best game against Buffalo, but I am very excited to see what that next step looks like for this team. They're saying, for as far as the winners, Sam Darnold is a winner. The Seahawks pulled the trigger on the move. Everyone expected to happen after they agreed to trade Geno to Las Vegas. Darnold has agreed to become their new franchise quarterback. They have a lot to improve on, though. You got to think about it. Tyler Metcalf's gone. DK Metcalf's gone. And he was just playing with Justin Jefferson, like the best receiver in the NFL, will be probably considered one of the greats of all time. And now he is going into a worse situation with a defensive head coach in Mac McDonald. You lose Kevin O'Connell. I'm going to disagree with the author and say it's a winner for the Seahawks. Sam Darnold is definitely a loser in this deal. Of course, aside from the financial benefit. But whoever plays quarterback in Pittsburgh is a winner because of the deal. Ryan Poles, the general manager for the Bears, trying to build this team into a contender. This is the offseason when he faces the most pressure to make that happen. And he's made a lot of great moves. He secured trades for Joe Thuney from the Chiefs and Rams guard Jonah Jackson. He also signed Drew Dalman to a deal. And then we heard also that he later brought in an edge, or a defensive end in Grady Jarrett. So they've done a lot of good things. Jaden Daniels, who I said right away when I saw the Laramie Tunsil deal that Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, that was a huge win for them. Okay, but let's just take a step back and see what they actually did. They were able to re-sign Zach Ertz. All right, they agreed to a trade to get Laramie Tunsil. All right, so the addition of, wait a minute, Deebo Samuel? Yes, Deebo Samuel. The addition of Deebo Samuel, it's going to bring a lot of the pressure off of Terry McLaurin. So you look at this team, Jaden Daniels, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, Terry McLaurin, a stronger offensive lineman. Look, they've made a lot of great moves, but it's all been on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that's because Dan Quinn is going to tell them, hey, the draft is my time. All right. I'm going to pick some dogs on defense. And I'm going defense. And you guys, you got to spend your money in free agency, but I'm going to be drafting my defensive players when the draft kicks off. But yeah, the Commanders, they have turned the pages. Feels very similar to the Texans last year. And that didn't pan out so well, did it? Right? We were like, oh my God, they brought in Stephon Diggs. But they had Tank Dell, they had Nico Collins, they brought in Diggs. It was just, it's funny, like on paper, some of these teams, it's like, you're like, man, this is a home run. What could go wrong? But it's the NFL, you know? You just don't know until they start playing together how it's really going to work. But so far, it appears that the Commanders are preparing to take the next step, which is kind of a lofty statement when you consider that they went to the NFC Championship game. The only step is to win it, which means their only next step is a Super Bowl, which feels unfair to say at this point in Jaden Daniels' career, but that's where we find them. That's where we find him. Andrew Berry, the Browns GM, easiest night of sleep after Myles Garrett agreed to a new extension. Garrett is going to be paid $40 million annual guaranteed. Him $123 million in new money. Devontae Adams left the Jets team going nowhere. And went to the Rams. And keep in mind, the Rams keeping Matthew Stafford, right? Obviously, Matthew Stafford is like, yeah, I just want to win one more ring. And the only way I'm staying here is if you guys show me that you are committed to doing it. Devontae Adams, same thing. He's like, I've played, a lot of football. I'm getting older. I want a ring, right? They're bringing in like-minded people that are older and they want a Super Bowl ring. And the Rams, man, when they can stay healthy, they are one of the better teams in the league. And I think this is a great move. Devontae Adams has a lot of good ball left. Aaron Rodgers has a ton of respect for Matthew Stafford. And I'm sure with how close Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers are, Aaron probably was like, dude, go play with that dude. That dude will give you a legitimate Super Bowl opportunity. So good thing for Devontae Adams. Jaycee Horn, like I said, highest paid defensive back in NFL history. So he's got to be one of the winners, right? A 4-year deal worth $100 million after his first Pro Bowl season in year 4. Interesting, right? You can bet players like Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley and Trent McDuffie are dreaming about what's coming their way in the not so distant future. But for today, it's Jaycee Horn's day. And it's funny. It's like, is Jaycee Horn better than Patrick Surtain? No. But the NFLPA encourages that every time a player signs a deal that they break the previous deal's record. So it is what it is, I guess. But if you're Surtain, you're like, hey man, I'm doing fine. I got my money. But you're also like, man, these guys are getting paid more than me now. What? I'm the defensive player of the year as a defensive back. It's only happened 3 times in the last 30 years, or 2 times. Losers, Jerry Jones. All right. Couldn't have been pleased when they saw Cleveland give all that money to Myles Garrett, because his job of signing star linebacker Micah Parsons to a new deal just became a lot harder. Jones spent all of last season negotiating with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb on massive extensions, all with the Micah Parsons thing looming in the background. And at 25 years old, Parsons is about to play on the 5th-year option of his rookie deal. He's also one of the nastiest players in the league. Obviously versatile. He was off the ball linebacker. Then he lined up as an edge rusher. I mean, he's a game wrecker. He's a TJ Watt. He's a Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons. Like, he's one of these guys that you want to keep on your team. But the Cowboys, if there's one thing that they're terrible at, it's timing, right? It's not so much the players that they pay that we have a problem with. It's always the timing of it that bothers us, right? Like, if they would have paid Dak Prescott, way sooner, we would have just rolled with it, right? Like, the Lions are really good about this, right? They Amon-Ra St. Brown. You notice like all of their star players, you don't see them available. It's like it's like they don't wait until the player because like once they know this guy's going to be worth record setting amounts of money, once they know that, they pay him before they become that. It's like day trading, right? You buy a stock based on where you think it will go, not where it is, right? I mean, you can't buy, Bitcoin today unless you're a millionaire. But when it was 2012, you could buy like 1,000 of them for $1. I mean, you got to be able to have a little bit of foresight. In the Cowboys, especially Jerry Jones, it just seems like year after year after year, we're always like, what are the Cowboys doing? Why are they sitting around letting all these players, like, you're going to have to pay him anyway, right? Or no? If no, then release him. But if yes, then what are we waiting for? Like the Micah Parsons deal just became a whole lot harder, and it will continue to do so until you just pull the trigger on it. And that's what's weird is like he does these standoffs, and it leads you to believe that, hey, maybe these players are going to test free agency. Maybe these players are going to walk. Maybe Jerry Jones doesn't want them that bad, which is another decision that I think we could respect in a way, because at least it's a decision. But then you see Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb get massive extensions, and you're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? You're going to pay him the whole time? It's very, very weird. Okay. Patrick Mahomes, one of the losers, the Eagles' obliteration of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl made it clear that the Chiefs' O-line needed some major improvement. So far, the process has taken a little time to sort out, especially after the team's reported hopes of bringing in Ronnie Stanley from the Ravens, and he ended up, of course, signing with the Ravens, re-signing with the Ravens. The Chiefs slapped the franchise tag on the right guard, Trey Smith, to keep him in-house, and then Joe Thuney is a Bear. Kansas City's also signing Jalen Moore, the 49ers former offensive tackle, who currently seems like the most likely candidate to take over the left tackle job. That became such a headache for the Chiefs last season. But here's the other thing, and this is the problem for Mahomes. The left side remains huge uncertainty. Moore has been a backup behind Trent Williams for the last 4 years in San Francisco, which means there's no guarantee he can be an effective option. Thuney was the insurance policy the Chiefs turned to late last season when he assumed left tackle duties with 4 games left in the regular season, but now he's gone. There's also likely to be competition at left guard with failed tackle Kingsley Sumatia, most recently toiled. There's still plenty of time to figure all this out, but right now Mahomes might not have any clarity on any of this until the preseason starts, and that's not necessarily a good feeling when you consider that the biggest reason the Chiefs lost that game is their offensive line. But, with Patrick Mahomes, you just know that they're going to find a way to put a respectable offensive line out there, because, taking sacks, it is a little bit of a quarterback stat. Like, it's not a coincidence that Caleb Williams took so many sacks, right? He held the ball too long. All right. Same thing with Russell Wilson. Hold the ball too long, you take sacks. Justin Fields, hold the ball, take sacks. Mahomes gets rid of the ball. He's very good at he helps his offensive line a lot. Very hard to bring down. So the Chiefs, I'm not saying that it's like hit the panic button, but none of your anxieties, if you're a Chiefs fan, have been relieved, to say the least. The Bengals, one of the losers, because they came in the offseason with high hopes of keeping Trey Hendrickson, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. And unfortunately for them, it already looks like that's going to be a hard task, at least when it comes to Hendrickson. The Bengals already had given Hendrickson the right to pursue a trade, mainly because he wants a new deal. The pact that made Myles Garrett just signed, along with a 3-year, $106 million deal that Max Crosby got. assures that Hendrickson will be searching for that kind of a payday. And Cincinnati's $43.4 million in projected cap space likely can't afford Hendrickson, especially a season where he is coming off of, where he led the NFL in 17 and a half sacks. There's a number of teams that would love to add a pass rusher like that. So it does look like the Bengals are going to lose Hendrickson. I always believed that they were going to be able to keep Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's pretty much it. But they still have the 30-year-old Hendrickson under contract for another season, but moving him makes a lot of sense now given how the market has shifted. Kirk Cousins, one of the biggest names on the free agent market last season, the Falcons couldn't wait to sign him. Actually, they couldn't wait so much that they got in trouble for tampering. I don't know if you guys remember that. But his franchise is publicly saying that it's going to do what's best for its own interest. So that's got to be a tough one for Kirk Cousins to swallow, who played well for half a season and then imploded. And I will say, if you want to know when it happened, go watch the Broncos-Falcons game. That was the game that ruined Kirk Cousins' season. There are positions out there to be had. There's still a handful of teams. So you got the Giants, Steelers, Browns. There aren't many candidates out there without some sort of quarterback answer. But look, the Steelers, it's like Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, or bust. I mean, that's just where we're at. Or they keep Russell Wilson, I guess. I don't know. Why aren't we talking more about Russell Wilson? Probably because none of us think he's going to start anywhere. But we all know that he will. Maybe not week 1, but at some point during the season, Mr. Unlimited's coming into the game. Sean is about to put the belt to the Chiefs. Full division sweep coming soon. I am not delusional. Hopefully we wake up to the Broncos signing Evan Ingram news, dude. I would love to wake up with that news. And speaking of waking up with the news, I'm going to wrap this one up for today. It is midnight over here in Central Time, but you guys being in here, man, means the world to me. Obviously, a huge day for free agency. Games and dynasties have shifted completely. That there's just right off the bat, I can say the Broncos, the Bears, the Commanders are like the teams that stand out to me is massively improving, even if it's just one or two players, right? In the Steelers, they do look like if they bring in the right quarterback, they can compete for a Super Bowl, which is exciting because the Steelers haven't really had a prolific quarterback in Pittsburgh in a long time. Even Ben Roethlisberger's last couple of years, it was like, right? You know what I mean? So I think that if you're a Kirk Cousins or an Aaron Rodgers, two guys that came off an Achilles injury, right? And it doesn't matter how old you are. Your first year back from an Achilles is going to be one of your worst years, statistically. And that's just the truth. That's exactly what Max Crosby said on his interview last week. He's like, yeah, I know he didn't have a good season, talking about Aaron, but he also was coming off an Achilles. No one is good after an Achilles. But year 2 after Achilles, that's when you really start trusting your plant and you start really getting better. But with their age, it's hard to tell, like, okay, does that apply to people not 24 like Saquon Barkley? Well, we're going to have to figure it out. We got ZC27. What do you think of the Seahawks signing Sam Darnold? I think it's a great move for the Seahawks. I think Sam Darnold is an immediate upgrade over Geno Smith. I think he's intriguing because, look, we saw Sam Darnold take a major step in the right direction. But what's intriguing about Sam Darnold is that the sample size is only one season, which some people may be scared and shy away from. I think it's a great thing because it tells us that his floor is a lot higher than we thought before last season started, but it also means that his ceiling could also be higher than we thought, right? Because now Sam, right, at the quarterback position, very mental. It's one thing to think you can do it. It's one thing to go out there and actually win 13 games, compete for the number 1 seed in the NFC. And now you know that you can play quarterback at a high level in this league. Sam Darnold very well could take another big step, and another big step puts him in the top 12, top 10 conversation. So the upside of Sam Darnold is amazing. He's still young. He's you got over a decade younger at the position. It's a great deal. But for Sam Darnold on a personal level, you lose Justin Jefferson, right? You lose Jordan Addison. You lose Kevin O'Connell. You lose TJ Hawkinson. You lose a lot. I'll just put it that way. And the Kevin O'Connell thing being the biggest, maybe Justin Jefferson, but now you're going to a defensive-minded head coach. No DK Metcalf, no Tyler Lockett. You do got JSN there, but overall, it's going to be a lot harder for Sam Darnold, just as far as talent. But hey, man, you got to go out there and prove it. They're giving you $100 million. But if you're a Seahawks fan, I think you got to be happy about it. You guys have been awesome. If you guys want to, please, you don't have to, but if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up on your way out. As always, you can follow me on X at NFL with Kyle. And you can follow my partner, Rick, who's on his honeymoon right now. In a different country. He is going to be coming back shortly, but you can follow him at And Now Rick, ANDNOWRICK. And you can follow the Only Football Podcast at Only Football Pod. Best remaining free agents. I actually just covered that. If you want to rewind it like 20 minutes, but I went over the top ones. So you got, I'll just rattle some names for you really quick. But if you want a more in-depth look at that. Oh, I almost froze there for a second. Okay. So you got Amari Cooper, Javon Holland, Will Fries, Asante Samuel Jr., Justin Reed, Cam Robinson, Stephon Diggs, Tevin Jenkins, Javon Hargrave, Evan Ingram, who had a visit with the Broncos today, Calais Campbell, Josh Myers, Kevin Zietler, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jonathan Allen, Mekhi Becton, Jameis Winston. Now, that's an intriguing position, right? If I'm the Steelers, I would consider it, right? If it's between Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, I'm taking Jameis Winston every single time. Russell Wilson's 36 years old. But, yep, he's next. Joey Bosa. What? Joey Bosa is available and he's ranked 57? Have I been living under a rock? I thought Joey Bosa was one of these guys that's like, oh my God, Joey Bosa. Holy crap. Him and Stephon Diggs fell off a cliff, but I guess Joey Bosa fell off a way bigger cliff. Dante Fowler, J.K. Dobbins, Rico Dowdle, Zadarius Smith, Mike Williams, Justin Simmons. Hate to see that he's, man, he's still got really good football left in him. Stephon Gilmore. You got a lot of older guys that got a lot of potential. Mike Williams, Justin Simmons, Stephon Gilmore. Joey Bosa joining Nick in the Bay, calling it now. Ooh, that's a good prediction because with all of the 49ers, Dre Greenlaw, all these guys are letting go. Kyle Juszczyk. Obviously, money's an issue, but the incentive to play with your brother, you may take a pay cut just to do that, which it would be a win-win for everybody involved. And it could save the 49ers from getting into a really bad situation with the amount of talent they're letting walk. But if you guys want, it is actually technically Tuesday officially now, but on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time, I'm going to be interviewing a man named Darwin. He is a huge Ravens fan. I have so many questions for him, like where do you go from here? How do you pick up the pieces? I've actually interviewed him in the offseason the past couple years, and we're going to do it again on Wednesday. I hope you guys show up to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I like to interview fans from different fan bases and get a feel on where they think they are at as a franchise, what they need, some of the missing pieces, etc. So if that sounds interesting, definitely show up to that on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central. It should be a lot of fun. Of course, we're going to be dropping breaking news on our YouTube channel with shorts, and then also bringing you live streams twice a week to cover all of the latest, greatest news. Once again, for everybody that doesn't know, our biggest supporter ever on this channel, we lost Bill. So we dedicate this episode to him and all of our future episodes as well. Hope the Giants do something amazing for you. Bill, we are always thinking about you. We're always sending our love to you. And I can't wait to see you guys on Wednesday. I really hope I do. It's going to be a good interview. Have a good night. Kick ass tomorrow. And I'll see you guys on Wednesday.